You are listening to the Sunny and PHX podcast, the YouTube edition. Every week we take a clip from the full episode and put it up on here specifically for you guys. If you want to listen to the full thing, check it out on Deepish Thoughts, the lovely podcast network we're a part of. You can hit that up by deepishthoughts.com or sunnyandphxpod.com, or in a few days it'll be up here on YouTube.
So now we're going to move on to the Suns 2017-18 schedule. That was released last week, and we've got some pretty interesting things to talk about here. We open the season at home against Portland, which we were talking right before the show, saying how it seems like we play Portland very early on most seasons for the past few years, at least. And we used to play the Mavericks first and then Portland, but now we're just getting straight to the point and playing Portland. But start the season at home on October 18th. That's a Wednesday. I will probably be there, and I'm really pumped. But, David, what are you thinking about this schedule?
Yeah, I always like watching the Portland games. Maybe I'll try and go down there. I don't normally work on Wednesdays, so that'll be fun. So
there we go.
Season opener fun action. We can start doing that now with you down in Phoenix.
That's right.
One of the big things that I noticed is that it kind of got flipped. Most of the time, the last couple of years, or at least especially last year, we got kind of front-loaded with the Warriors. We played them like 2 times in November and 1 time in December, I feel like, and played them really early on, which makes sense. We're a tanking team. They normally want the big market, big win teams to be playing against each other kind of at the end of the season, get some national attention, get a little bit more people involved in the games. But this year it's kind of flipped. Instead of playing the Lakers kind of mid to late season, we're kind of playing the Lakers at the beginning of the season. We play them 2 times in November, 1 time in December, and then our last game against them is February 6th. I think that's really interesting because then we don't play the Warriors until February 12th. And that's not what I was expecting. That's like, okay, the Warriors didn't play the Thunder last year until like beginning of February, and that was supposed to be a big key matchup. I'm going to have to edit that out. Oh man, that sneeze. So with that, the key matchups are normally at the end of the season, and it's really weird because we play them twice in April, once in March, once in February. One of them's on NBA TV for sure. And I just find that really interesting. That either means that, you know, our young guys are getting enough attention that they feel like we're worthy, in quotes, enough to play against them at the end of the season or what. But it's really interesting, our schedule. I feel like we're backloaded with a ton of playoff teams. And maybe that's just to help the playoff teams get a couple more easy wins. But, you know, we post All-Star break, we've got Clippers, Portland, New Orleans twice, which is probably a playoff team with AD and DeMarcus. Thunder, Miami maybe, Cleveland, Utah again, the Warriors 3 times, not 4 times. Cleveland again. I mean, like, Rockets. The only real teams that we're playing that maybe not are playoff teams are like the Mavericks and maybe Atlanta and the Kings. So it's really interesting how backloaded our schedule is. Maybe that helps in the tank. Maybe we just don't care and are playing our guys the entire time. Who knows? But I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I do too. And I want to look at the reverse of this. You mentioned that we play the Lakers really early on. Charlie and I were talking about this the other day, actually, when we were looking at the schedule for the first time. We play the Lakers so early on. Our second game of the season on October 20th is at home against the Lakers. And we brought up the point, I wonder if there will be less Laker fans there because it's so early in the season. We have this issue at Suns games where a lot of Lakers fans show up and they're really loud and it's pretty embarrassing. So I'm kind of hoping that most of these Lakers, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see, most of these Lakers fans don't show up to that first game, so we can at least have that one where we can cheer really hard and it can be heard and we don't have to deal with the Lakers fandom quite as much. I'm not sure that that will be the case. I'll definitely report back, but I know one thing for sure. Charlie and I both said this. We will be yelling very loud at that game, no matter if there's Lakers fans there or not, because that's how we feel about the Lakers. So pretty interesting that we're playing them early on, but I'm excited at the same time because that guarantees we won't be resting any of our key players, and they won't be either. So we'll get to see a duel pretty early on between a renewed rivalry that's on its way to heating up again.
Yeah, and I think with some of these big market teams that are not even in close proximity, but just these big market teams that have been good historically for so long, they just travel really well. I mean, Atlanta has this problem playing against the Lakers. Washington has this problem playing against the Lakers. A ton of other teams do. Those are kind of just the two that come off the top of my head. But this is a problem for a lot of teams against them. And, you know, they'll probably be there. Phoenix is relatively close to Los Angeles, considering.
Right.
Not a very far drive. So it makes sense, but I feel pretty good about our chances against them.
I do too. The other thing that I want to bring up is I just looked, and it looks like we have 13 back-to-back games this year, and I believe it's also 13 nationally televised games. That's way more nationally televised games than I thought we'd get. Granted that most of those are NBA TV rather than like ESPN or TNT, but still, it's cool. And I'm wondering, David, why you think we got that many for a team that had less than 30 wins a season ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I think it has a lot to do with Booker. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to beat around the bush. He scored 70 points last season. I think that alone gives us kind of a just push to get a couple more games just in case that happens again. They are kind of hoping that maybe it's against one of these teams like the Warriors or something. Maybe a couple people are resting. Maybe Clay rests. And so it's Steph and like Draymond or whatever, like Clay and KD rest, and Booker is getting guarded by like Ian Clark the entire game, and maybe he goes off, and maybe they're just hoping for that. Is kind of what I feel like, especially like with that game. That's like the second to last game for us. Maybe that happens. I honestly think that it's just because Booker scored 70 points. I think that alone has a lot of people excited, and I think the NBA wants to just cover their bases just in case that happens again.
I think you're right, and if I recall correctly, that game against Boston where he had 70 was not nationally televised.
Nope, it was not.
So I think that's exactly why too, and I think Josh Jackson does help a little bit. I think, you know, the schedule makers must see that, or whoever determines what games are nationally televised must see that he's a pretty exciting player as well, and that people want to see him. Kansas fans are, everywhere I've ever lived, I've known at least one Kansas fan. Like, there's Kansas fans everywhere. So I think having a guy like that join our team is helpful for getting some nationally televised games. But I think you're right. I think it's mostly because of Booker dropping 70.
Yep, that, and I mean, we do have Marquise Chris. We'll see how he continues to progress, but he had a pretty good rookie season, and now the Suns are kind of getting like, oh yeah, no, this core is probably in the higher ups with other young cores that are just drafted in the last couple of years and working. So I think we're getting a little bit of respect that way.
Right. Well, and the excitement of Derek Jones Jr. I saw, seriously, today on ESPN, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I don't know about Twitter, whatever, they posted 2 of his dunks from this offseason. And I remember looking, I'm like, is this the Suns posting this, or is this like in a Suns group I'm in? But no, it was regular ESPN. So apparently people are excited. And I went to look at the comments because I expect people to say, like, why are they showing this? These guys are terrible. But most people were like, this guy can get up. I'm like, oh, cool. So that probably doesn't add a whole lot, but it's still cool to get recognized like that sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting that Derek Jones Jr. has kind of carved out this little area of people just wanting to see him dunk, and he was in the dunk contest and invited into it before he had even made a dunk in the NBA, technically.
Right.
So, I mean,
That's right.
weird stuff.
It is. It is.
I hope you enjoyed this clip from Sonny and PHX. Thanks for listening. Check out the full episode here on YouTube or at Deepish Thoughts. Once again, those URLs, deepishthoughts.com, or you can just type in sonnyandphxpod.com. Like, comment, subscribe, and go Suns.